All right, man. So the main event, uh, man, today, man, today we're talking about how most men destroy their lives one decision at a time. So, um, a lot of times when it comes to anything destructive, it doesn't happen the first time you do it. It doesn't happen the second time you do it. It doesn't happen the third time you do it. It happens after years of compounding bad habits. You can look at the same thing with working out. You can look at the same thing with credit card debt. You can look at the same thing with, you know, having unprotected sex. If you do it long enough, eventually you're going to have an unplanned pregnancy. Eventually you're going to get an STD. Eventually something's going to happen that you didn't expect to happen. And a lot of times that's what happens when we have bad habits. Things just happen out of nowhere that we did not expect to happen. You know, damn, I have $20,000 in credit card debt. How'd that happen? Compound interest. You continue to spend recklessly, you continuing to spend things and not pay attention to them. Damn, I didn't gain 20 pounds. How'd that happen? You continuing to eat bad junk food, you continuing to um, not work out consistently, you breaking promises you made to yourself, how you was going to work out 3 4 times a week, and that didn't happen, and years went by, and now you didn't gain 20 pounds, and now we come to this. Damn, how did my life look like this? Compound things, compounded bad habits, small compromises, soft routines, you know you going against your word. So this is how most men end up in situations that they didn't see themselves happening or see themselves being in. This is how they wake up one day and like, what the fuck happened to my life? Compounded bad habits. It's very simple. You know, things don't fall apart overnight. Things don't happen overnight. No, no. Things happen over time. You know, every time you skip the gym, every time you skipped on your diet, every time you settle for people that you knew you shouldn't be settling for, every time you overlooked red flags in people, in friends and relationships, that's how your life fell apart. That's how things got to where they are, you know? So you might ask, Mac, how do men destroy their lives? There's a few ways. One, they lose their standards, you know. The first thing, once you lose your standards, the first thing to go is your fitness. You start making false promises. You start saying you're gonna do something and you don't do it, and now you stop working out. Next thing you know, you ain't worked out in a year, and then from that, in that process, you're still eating like shit. You're still eating like a pig. You're overeating. You're eating bad food. You're eating junk food. You're eating food that's gonna keep you depressed and gluttonous. You know, you're eating food that's gonna keep you your brain fogged. You're eating food that's going to make your mind less sharp. And then from there, your mindset follows from there. You stop thinking highly of yourself, you lose your confidence, you lose your edge. You start tolerating disrespect. So it's all a domino effect of everything. But usually when this happens, your fitness goes first. First it's the fitness, then it's the food you eat, then it's your mindset, and everything else after that just falls falls to the wayside, you know. Um and then from there, right? You start numbing yourself with comfort. You start binging on junk food. You start watching porn. You start drinking alcohol. You start doom scrolling on social media. You start having more distractions, and you're going deeper and deeper away from your purpose. And then, guys, what do guys do when they lose their standards, lose their confidence? They start to surround themselves with weak people, having weak ass friends around, getting into relationships that's going to destroy them, being with toxic people. Hey, you watched the game last week? Man, that person scored 20 points. Man, do you know in college bro, I don't care about I really don't care. I really don't care about sports. Y'all start talking about meaningless conversations. You start hanging around friends that are going nowhere. You start hanging around losers that are going nowhere. Guys that are talking about dumbass celebrity gossip. You know, coworkers start talking about dumb, like you start just surrounding yourself with weak people, man. Getting into toxic relationships, your environments you shouldn't be in. You're in the bar every weekend with more losers. You guys, I used to be a bouncer, man. I used to be a bouncer. And the amount of losers I've seen in that bar every single day, the same people would go there religiously, like it was their gym membership. It was crazy. But this is what happens when you lose control of your life. You start to numb yourself and surround yourself with distractions and things that are going to slowly kill you. Alcohol being number one, drugs being two, toxic people being three, you know? So, and then I would say the last one is you start to break promises to yourself. Skipping the gym, sleeping in. I'm gonna start next week. I'm gonna start Monday. I'm gonna get back on my diet next month. Y'all realize that every time you say these things, you start to kill your self trust. You start to trust yourself less. You start to kill your inner confidence. That's why whenever I say I'm going to do something, I do it because I know that if I put it off, I'm going to lose a little piece of trust in myself that I can't get it done. And it's very hard to get that back if you're not disciplined, you know? So a lot of times your life doesn't fall apart because you're weak. Your life falls apart because you lose your standards. You lose trust in yourself. You lose confidence. And the only way to keep that is by being disciplined, doing and saying what you're gonna do and doing it religiously. There's no second thoughts. I'm gonna wake up at 6 a.m. to go work out. That's the time I'm waking up to go work out. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But what happens is you say this thing and then you sleep in until 8 a.m. You sleep in later than you need to. You don't go work out. You don't meal prep to be ahead of the week. You're not prepared. So when you're not prepared, you start to fall off slowly. So, you know, it's everything that we do is a domino effect, man. Everything that we do is compounded interest. Everything that we do has a negative or positive reaction to it. And the best way to spot this before it's too late, a lot of times, man, check your weight regularly. If you start to see that you're starting to gain a lot more weight, this is where you need to put yourself in check. If you were 160 last month and then this month you're 175 or 170, okay, you need to dial back in and log back in again. If this is your goal weight, if this is the weight that you are good with being at, if 160 is your ideal weight and you start to gain more, you need to dial back in and lock in. Because deep down, you know, man, I should not be 170 right now. I should not be 175. You know you've let your standards slip. So you need to get back in the lab, get back on the plan, and get that weight down. That's the best way to start. That's the best way to catch things and control things before it gets out of control. You know, other things are if you're constantly tired and blaming your age for it, another indication that you are starting to slip out of control. Everything ain't about age, everything ain't about getting older. I know people that are in their 50s and 60s in fantastic shape, men and women. They're not blaming their age, they just have standards. They understand I'm not going to eat this way. This is not part of my diet. I have a routine of working out 3 to 4 times a week. I have a routine of being up at a certain time. I have a routine of following just a certain path. And they don't compromise that for anybody. They compromise that for nobody. You compromise that for your boss, for your wife, for your girlfriend, for your friends. There's no compromising when it comes to your standards or your goals. There's none. No, I'm going to the gym at this time. I don't care what's happening at this time. I don't care about, what you got going on. No, this is my routine. I'll work around it. I'm not saying I can't, hang out with you, but I'm going to work around this. We have to work around this schedule. I don't work around that schedule. And if you adopt that mindset, man, it's hard to fall off that way. You know, a lot of destruction is disguised as being normal. We blame age, we blame, you know, shit. We blame other people. This shit is not normal, man. You guys have to get in you guys have to get control of your life before it spirals out of control. You know? So best way to reverse this. You guys know I give you guys solutions. I don't just give you guys problems or address problems without solutions, man. It's very simple, man. The best way to reverse all of this, set non-negotiables. Move daily. I don't care if that's walking, jogging, running, you know, but you definitely have to do some type of strength training. Do some type of strength training. But just move your body. Eating clean 80% of the time. We're never saying you guys can't eat junk food, but the bad cannot outweigh the good. And that is a majority of people. The bad outweighs the good. The next thing is make sure you guys are getting enough rest. You guys cannot operate at the highest level if you're not sleeping properly, if you're not getting enough sleep. Anywhere from 6 to 8 hours is ideal. And then cut out weak influences, man. Stop hanging around fucking losers. Stop being around weak ass people talking about dumbass conversations going nowhere. They're not talking about elevating. If they're not talking about getting better and growing, why are you hanging around them? I don't hang around people that have dumb conversations. Now, okay, do we talk about dumb shit that's in the news from here and there? Sure. But it's not a majority of our conversations. It's about money, it's about the gym, it's about just getting better overall. So you guys have to the moral of the story here is, man, just find pain and purpose again. Once you find pain and purpose, that's when you regain control. Because when you find pain, that's when the best is on the other side of pain. Pleasure is always up front. Doom scrolling, drugs, alcohol, pornography. These are the pleasures that lead to hell. There's a saying, heaven feels like the path to heaven feels like hell. The path to hell feels like heaven. So, upfront pleasure, back end pain. Or do you want upfront pain, back end pleasure? It's very simple. The choice is yours. And that's it for today, man. I appreciate you guys for tapping in.